Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're going to go ahead and wait a few minutes or a few seconds for the live to get started and for people to join us. So while we wait, go ahead and say hi. Tell us your name and major in the chat. We'd love to chat with you. If you've already told us your name and your major, tell us where you're from and maybe how your summer's going. So if you want to go ahead and put in the chat just to let us know you're here. Today's session is going to wrap up the first portion of our live sessions, which are all about living on campus. On Thursday, we have a very exciting session and some special guests that will be talking to us about understanding your student bill. So with charges recently getting posted, it's a very good timing. But today we're going to go just a little bit more into detail on our resident handbook. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with our application updates. No major updates except that our applications are open for our standby list in Edinburgh. We have a few more spaces in Brownsville. And if you are currently on our standby list, we will be sending out some communication to you soon, just to give you an idea of where you're at and how, or what next steps you should be taking for your circumstances. So keep a lookout for the email. Thank you so much for contacting us. Those of you that have been contacting us, we know you really want to live on campus and we're excited to have you. So thank you so much for contacting us, and we will be in touch very soon. Now we're going to go ahead and get started with a quick introduction on our resident handbook. So first, we have a mission in Housing and Residence Life to make sure that we provide an affordable and safe residential community experience for all students that supports and enhances mutual respect, student learning, personal growth, and academic achievement. What does that mean? That just means that we are working collectively together to make sure that each person gets the experience that they need for living on campus, right? And so how do we do that? We do that by respecting each other, ourselves, your home, the university staff, and the community. Respect looks very different in a lot of different ways, but some of the most notable things are no pranks and no hazing, right? So while it's super important to have fun and we want you guys to have so much fun, pranks and hazing are not conducive to a supportive community. So that's not allowed. Also safety, take care of your community and report any suspicious activity. We'll tell you a little bit more about that later on. And then evacuate immediately if you hear the fire alarm. That's a super, super important one. There are actually repercussions for not evacuating if you hear the fire alarm. So anytime you hear it, just note that whatever it is, whatever the reason the fire alarm is getting sounded, it's very important that you evacuate. Some that aren't very visible right now, but we're going to go ahead and make them visible, are security. So make sure your door is locked at all times, whether that's in an apartment, in a residence hall. Make sure your door is locked at all times to keep your possessions safe and to keep you safe. And then if you're locked out, you can definitely call the resident assistant on call, and they are available to assist you with anything that you might need. So thank you so much for that. And we're going to go ahead and get started with some more details.
Okay. So now we're going to talk about who is here to help. So this is staff members that you will be seeing throughout the halls at different events throughout the year. So these are some familiar faces to look out for. First, we have the housing coordinators. So HCs are full-time living professional staff members who oversee the day-to-day operations of each residential hall and residential community. So this includes, but is not limited to, supervising resident assistants, advising hall council, promoting student leadership opportunities, following up on facilities or maintenance concerns, and adjudicating conduct cases related to student behavior, as well as serving as professional staff resource for residents living in their community, as well as also facilitating and coordinating events for the residents. And then we also have our wonderful resident assistants, or RAs, which are also peer mentors, and they're students as well, just like you guys. So RAs are trained student staff members who strive to build relationships with residents, serve as a resource and referral agent for community members. They assist in building safety and security through on-duty service every night, and conduct health and safety inspections, and they also help maintain community standards of behavior. RAs are selected as peer educators based on their skills and willingness to assist residents being successful at UTRGV. And they also facilitate and coordinate events as well. So that's something that you guys can look out for throughout the year. Okay, and now we want to highlight a couple of things from the handbook. So these are things to take note of. So first, we have renter's insurance. The university does not provide insurance for personal property. Students can minimize the financial impact of theft or natural disasters by insuring their personal property. So basically, we do encourage renter's insurance for residents just to make sure that your things are extra safe, apart from keeping them safe in your area. And then we want to go over cooking policy. So no open heating element, no moving sharp edges or other moving electric parts. This is especially important in residence halls because they do not all have community kitchen areas. So this means no hot plates, no air fryers, or no cooking elements that have an automatic off button.
Okay, now jumping over to another highlight, it's decorations. Obviously, we do encourage decorations because we want for you guys to feel comfortable in your room, in your space, and basically make it your own. However, we do ask that all decorations be of temporary nature. Basically, what that means is anything that's not permanent. For example, if you want to put something up in your wall, we do encourage again decorations, but we recommend you guys using either painter's tape or poster putty. Or anything that won't make like a permanent damage to the wall itself. Obviously, we don't allow any sort of drilling into the wall or any nailing into the wall, and absolutely no candles. I know that's a big thing with the residents, so please refrain from bringing like any candles. Obviously, if you guys want more information of, what is and isn't allowed, you guys can always look over the handbook, for further details. Then moving on to room search and seizures. Reasons rooms may be entered include but are not limited to when a known emergency exists, when there is evidence that a possible emergency or violation of university regulations exist, any maintenance that we need to do, and or any health and safety inspections we might have throughout the year. Okay, now moving on to the visiting hours, for the halls or regardless of what facility you guys are at, we do have visiting hours. So for example, from Sunday through Thursday, they start at 10 a.m. and end at 1 a.m. From Friday to Saturday, they start at 10 a.m. and end at 2 a.m. For sleepovers, yes, you guys are allowed to have sleepovers. However, there is a process that y'all must follow. And absolutely no one of the opposite sex is allowed to stay in your room overnight. I do want to mention that you always want to check in with your roommate if you have one, to make sure that they're okay with, a friend spending the night, whatever the case might be. In the case that your roommate is not here, we still need some type of confirmation from them, some type of communication being sent out, stating that they're okay with like I said, a person staying over, and there is a form that both of you will need to sign on your end. Moving on to quiet hours. So they from Sunday to Thursday they start at 10 p.m. and end at 10 a.m. And from Friday to Saturday they start at 12 a.m. and end at 10 a.m. For any host or guest that you guys might have within the halls, remember all visitors must be checked in regardless of what facility you guys are at. With our front desk. So, for example, if you enter Heritage Hall or Unity Hall, there's always going to be the front desk, and you'll see either a resident assistant or a student assistant sitting there checking people in. All guests, they do need a valid form of ID that will keep locked in a box. That way we can keep track of who's going in and out. In the case where you enter the hall and you don't see anyone sitting at that desk, it is your responsibility as a resident to obviously abide by the rules and contact the RA on call to check in your guest.
Okay, so now I'm gonna go over some of our substance policies. So first off, I'm gonna go over our alcohol policy. It is only allowed in apartments and suites where all residents are over the age of 21. So for example, if you're in a residence hall and you are 21 but your roommate is not, then the entire suite cannot have alcohol. And then now moving over to smoking. So UTRGV is proud to be a tobacco-free campus. All forms of tobacco are not are prohibited, meaning they're not allowed in any of the halls and apartments, and this includes any vapes. And then now on to drugs. For drugs, UTRGV is a drug-free zone, so no drugs of any sorts are allowed at the university, which includes all of our housing facilities. And then now going over some of our other policies that we have in place for cleanliness. Please make sure that you're keeping your living spaces clean. This includes taking out the trash, and reporting any maintenance concerns and damages. For animals, we do not allow any animals on campus unless it is an emotional support animal, which has to be approved by our Student Accessibility Service Department, or if it's a service animal. We may sometimes feel bad to see a stray and feel like it's our responsibility, to kind of take it in and care for it. But we do not allow any stray animals or any like the care of the animals, or providing any food for them. This just kind of ensures for us to like make sure that you're being safe, and then also making sure that we're keeping our facilities clean and up to par for you to reside in those spaces. And then lastly, I will go over our campus carry restrictions. So the majority of our spaces are exclusion zones, meaning that you cannot have or you cannot carry in those spaces, right? So the residence hall are one example. However, for more information, you can review our campus carry restrictions on our website for more information, or you can email us at home to get more clarification on what those spaces are.
Okay, so you did hear what our resident assistants are, and they are normally on call 24/7. So what can you call them for? You can always call them if you have any maintenance concerns, any policy violations, any guest or visitation questions. If you ever lose your key or you are locked out of your room, you can go ahead and call them. Additionally, you can also call them for any community concerns, any disturbance, or if you just have any other additional questions or any concerns. So, as you already heard, you heard some of our policies. So, what happens if you break a policy? So, it may vary depending on the situation or the policy that is being broken. However, normally you would either have a meeting with the housing staff member. You may have a student violation report, uh, restitution if anything is broken, so a fine, a service, etc. Additionally, meeting with with students' rights and responsibilities, and there is a removal form on campus housing depending on the severity.
So here we have our contact information, and we do actually have a question in the chat, and it goes back to decorations, which it is the whole decoration policy. There's so many nuances that go to it, and the reason for it is fire, health, and safety, or fire safety, health and safety, just things. We want you guys to feel comfortable and live in a space that is 100% you, but at the same time, these spaces are temporary. So the question is, and I'm going to flash it here, are wax warmers allowed? And it's from Izzy or Israel. And that's a great question. So I believe they are allowed. However, they do have to be off if you are not in your space. Correct me if I'm wrong, coordinators, that's the policy, right? They are allowed as long as it's off when you're not in your space. You'll notice that once we do conduct our health and safety inspections, if we go in, we will turn off the wax warmers or unplug them. And that's simply to make sure that nothing does happen if you're not in your space. So thank you so much for that question. We do have, I'm going to give a quick shout out to a few resident assistants that have joined us. So we talked about housing coordinators. These are our housing coordinators. You might have seen us in some other sessions. And then we also have some RAs, and they're in the chat. So Mr. Derian, Suriel, Juan, Yoselin, Miracle, and Israel. They are resident assistants for our upcoming year. So thank you so much for joining us and telling us hi in the chat. If you have any questions, those are going to be the people you reach out to once you're on campus. And yeah, that's our staff. We have another question. Would incense sticks be allowed? Unfortunately, incense is an open, like you have to utilize an open flame to make the incense burn, so they are not allowed. And again, coordinators, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that that's what it is.
They're not allowed.
The things that are allowed that I've seen are it's a stick in oil. It has no open flame or no flame at all. It's just oil and a stick, and the stick absorbs the oil. That is allowed. But it's nothing with an open flame, nothing that you can light on fire, or that for like cooking elements, nothing that has moving parts or heating elements. For your irons, I know I've gotten a question a lot for like irons to iron clothes. That is allowed as long as it has an automatic shut-off feature. So make sure you're reviewing and making sure that it has an auto shut-off feature. Same with personal coffee makers. They're allowed as long as they're small or personal and have an auto shut-off feature. Plugins are not recommended. We have those like Glade plugins or Scentsy plugin, or like the not wax warmer but plugins. Those, from my knowledge, are not recommended. Although again, if they're unplugged while you're not in the room, you're more than welcome to have them plugged in, but they're not recommended because they do have fire safety concerns. So not while you're in the room. Thank you, Lizette. Or while you're in the room, not whenever you're away. When you're away, it's just a good practice to unplug things, make sure that they're not plugged in. Same with like hair, curling iron, straighteners. It's a very good practice just to unplug. Any other questions? These are all really great questions in the chat. And that was from Liz. And she is also another RA that's joining us today. So thank you so much for joining. If there are no other questions, we actually have our contact information here, which is home@utrgv.edu. Our contact phone numbers for both Edinburgh and Brownsville. Our social media. So if you haven't followed us yet, please definitely follow us on social media. And we do have another question. And then our website, utrgv.edu/home. That's going to be where you can find any additional information. And
I can go ahead and answer. Monica,
yes.
you want me to answer those questions? Okay.
Yes, of course.
The first one says, could I possibly bring an air fryer or any appliances like a mini fridge, etc.? If so, would they have to be a certain size or model? So the first part of this question, no, air fryers are not allowed in any of the facilities, so you cannot bring an air fryer. However, mini fridges are allowed, especially at Heritage and Troxel Hall, because mini fridges are not provided. And yes, they do have to be a certain size. They have to be, I want to say, under 3 feet or less. Yeah,
or smaller.
Yes, you can bring a mini fridge. Unity Hall does come with a mini fridge and microwave combo, so you will have that available to you. However, Heritage Troxel Hall does not provide a mini fridge, so you are able to bring one if you wish to do so. However, no air fryers are allowed in any of the facilities. And then Izzy asks, in the no tobacco policy, does that include smoking outside? Yes, that does include smoking outside. You cannot smoke anywhere in the campus. UTRGV is a tobacco-free campus, and I think we covered it in our last session. The city of Edinburgh also has a, I want to say, no smoking policy. No smoking policy. So yes, this does include smoking outside of our facilities. It's not allowed.
Awesome. And then just to clarify, okay, I'm going to show that second question as well. But just to clarify for air fryers, if you have a kitchen, apartments, I do believe that you're allowed to bring, right, in your kitchen. So it's the residence halls. If you do not have a kitchen, you are not allowed to have
Mhm.
any cooking appliances in your room in a residence hall. But if you have a full kitchen with a fridge and a microwave and all of the things, then you are allowed to bring an air fryer to your kitchen. And then just for the 3 cubic feet or less, a good rule to live by is if it has its own freezer, more than likely it's not acceptable. It's if the mini fridge doesn't have its own freezer. It's a fridge and it has like a little box that it's like a little ice box that acts as a freezer. But if it has its own door for a freezer, it's more than likely too big. That's just something that I learned recently. A good tip. Any additional questions? These are all amazing questions. Thank you guys for putting them in the chat. Very interactive. While we wait for more questions in the chat, if any, we're going to go ahead and go over our welcome home weekend.
Okay, so on August 23rd, we will be having a family lounge in Brownsville from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. So as you're checking in, we will have a tabling, and the tabling session will basically just be a bunch of campus resources available to you with additional information so you can have a successful year.
So similar to Brownsville, Edinburgh will also be having a family lounge. However, our family lounge starts after move-in, so it's at 4 p.m. And this is a family lounge and a family dinner. So you're more than welcome to invite your family to come out and have dinner with the housing staff. We will also be there, our RAs, you get to meet them and things like that. And then we will also have different campus partners tabling and providing those resources and assistance that you will utilize throughout your years here at UTRGV. And then after our family lounge and our family dinner, we do have a mandatory town hall that will be at 7:30, and that's going to be here in Edinburgh at the Student Union, the theater. So don't worry if you're not familiar where that is exactly. We all will walk over as a department and as a team to the theater so that we can also go ahead and get started with our town hall there.
Okay. And then for Saturday, August 24th, we will have move-in refreshments available from 9 in the morning to 4 p.m. And this is going to be in both campuses, both the Brownsville and Edinburgh campus. So what this means is basically we will have water, sodas, light snacks available to the families, to the students that are moving in and throughout the day, just in case you need to refresh, gather some energy. So that will be available that day from 9 in the morning to 4 p.m. And then, moreover, we will have mandatory community meetings in Brownsville, and those are to be determined by your building number. So keep a lookout for those if you are in the Brownsville campus. And then lastly, that night, we will have a movie night, again, both in the Brownsville and Edinburgh campus at 8 p.m. And this is going to be in collaboration with another campus partner, Student Activities, Campus Activities Board. So keep a lookout for that. For moving weekend, we will have a movie night where we're all going to get together and just get to know each other and enjoy a movie.
Yes, and then finally, the day before school starts, we have our Sunday showdown. So it starts off with brunch with your resident assistants. You're more than welcome to join us, get to know your RAs, and walk over. More than likely, there will be a meeting space in your designated hall, and then we'll walk over to to brunch together. And then there will be a scavenger hunt in Edinburgh and the showdown. Those are going to be just two fun activities that you're able to get to know your neighbors, come with your competitive spirit, and come ready to interact and engage. And then there will also be a barbecue and showdown in Brownsville. So there we'll also have the same meet your neighbor style activities, and then have some barbecue, some Kona ice, and some things to just kind of enjoy the evening. So please come and join us. Start making plans to join us. I know we say this every slide so far, but please make some time to join us so that way we can get to know you and get started before school starts. And lastly, just to close out our session, if you have missed any of our sessions so far, we've had 3, and they are all about your UTRGV home. Next, we're going to be moving on to paying for your UTRGV home. So all the topics regarding your student bill, any type of aid that you might be able to still qualify for, and then any additional fees and things that might be tacked on throughout your stay here. So make sure that you catch our next 3 sessions. Thank you for joining us so far. If you've missed any, you can go ahead and scan this QR code, and it has everything that you need to know about move-in, the resident handbook, and there was another session last week. And so it has everything that you need to know about living on campus. So thank you so much for joining us. I'm actually going to flash a different QR code. And this particular QR code, oh no, one second. This particular QR code has a link to the move-in guide. So that's going to be super helpful for you. It actually has things like room dimensions. It has anything that you need to know to move in, a checklist, all the fun things if you missed the session. And then it also has the form for early move-in. So you can go ahead and check that out. And it's a form, that form does close on the 9th. So please make sure to submit your early move-in request before August 9th. And then it also has the link to all of our live sessions. So please make sure to check that out. We will be updating those links as we go. So save it on your home screen and have access to it all the time. Also, a shameless plug, follow us on Instagram. We are going to start posting our move-in countdown and all the other things that we need, that you need to be successful to move in. So thank you so much for joining us. I don't see any other questions in the chat. So we're going to go ahead and conclude today's live session. Thank you so much.